Okay, so okay, guys, so we are live on the Twitter, YouTube, and Telegram. Today we doing Ask Me Anything from the story with Jordan Miller, creator of Satori. Hey, Jordan.
Hi, how's it going?
How are you today?
Good. Very
Good.
good.
So we'll be waiting for a question for the community about Satori and our project, and be asking you'll be asking questions and just answering for them.
Okay, cool.
So maybe I start first. We released just a few hours ago the timeline for the Satori for what we'll be doing the next few months, probably. Jordan, can you say something about the timeline? So we can start from this point and yeah.
Yeah, let me open that up. So the timeline is, um, we put that out so that everybody can kind of see what we're working on right now. And this timeline isn't for the full year. It's kind of titled that way, but really we think most of this can be done in Q1 and Q2. So, but a lot of this is foundational. Like if we look at like the technology side, the peer-to-peer, that will form a foundation for allowing us to do the multivariate engine. The Oracle rewards will allow us to do a foundation. It serves as a foundation for better streams, which allows us to kind of make a better world model. So it is kind of stair stepping, step by step. Everything improves upon the last thing. You guys have any specific questions about this? You know, I mean, it all makes sense in my head because I've been thinking about it a lot, but I don't know if it translates well or if these summaries kind of are easy to ingest. I don't know.
I hope you didn't mute everyone in the chat by mistake.
Oh, here, let me paste this into our chat so I can look at it while we're in here, and maybe we can just go through each point. Just okay, there it is. You
Yeah,
got
I
it.
was the same. All right, so we have two now.
So, so yeah, we've divided it up into outreach initiatives and technology initiatives. You know, I mean, the technology, we have other kind of categories. We're trying to always make it more decentralized. There's kind of that initiative or that category. And there's also the category of like the AI engine, improving that is its own kind of separate category. So we didn't kind of break it down. We just said, look, it's AI and it's blockchain. That's what the project is. So the blockchain is more concerned with outreach, the blockchain side of things, and the AI portion is more concerned, I think, with the technology and making an AI engine that can predict basically everything automatically. So, so on the one side, we have improved our branding, and of course that's a continual thing, but we've kind of stepped it up, I think, a little bit. And in preparation for the website launch or redesign, we have a website that's doesn't look very good, and that's just because we needed something up fast, and we just threw it together. But it's minimalist and it has the information that's necessary. And so we have started a redesign, and that includes basically three concepts. I mean, the overall, branding and design of the website needs to improve. The interactive graphs, so you can actually see and explore the data, needs to improve. And lastly, we also want to add an LLM so that we can kind of start to talk to the future. And that's what we're building, is a model of the future. So if you attach an LLM onto it, you can essentially talk to that model or talk about that model. And that's the next portion on that side of things, is the AI interface. It's an LLM. Let me just read it. An LLM added to the website to begin talking to. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's what I just said. So we're adding that into the website as well. That's going to grow. We can get away with doing something very basic at the start. We have lots of data streams. This LLM is basically just going to help us query those data streams more effectively, instead of maybe having to look them up one by one or something. It might summarize a little bit, but over time it's going to get better and better at summarizing the overall predictions of the network. So at the beginning it's just the basic version, and it'll eventually, I think, become the main interface that people will use to access the Satori insight. Let's see. Do we have almost 20 people? I don't want to block it with the video, but you just let me know if we're getting close to that.
Yeah, we have 18, but nobody complained yet, so I think so we're good.
Okay, cool. The next portion on that side is the onboarding. We identified recently that people that are getting interested in the project, they come to the Discord maybe, and they may not know exactly where to go next or how to get help. So we thought about an onboarding process. If you want to run a neuron, there's a specific place that people can just help you get set up. In most cases, it's not that hard, but of course, there's edge cases, and it's a little bit harder than just clicking one button. You have to kind of install Docker and stuff. So since it's a few steps, the onboarding, I think, is kind of a crucial piece until we can really improve the systems so that all of those steps are removed. That's the ultimate goal. We want to turn on the inviter reward. And that is a reward that says, if you're able to share information about Satori out there, especially like tutorials for getting set up on Satori, which kind of helps with the onboarding, then you can earn an inviter reward for those that actually start mining. It's not for those that, I don't know, purchase the token or anything like that. It's for, if you're able to bring valuable compute power to the network, you're rewarded. And we don't have that turned on right now. It was in the original plan, but we've turned it off because we pared down to only the essentials right after launch. So our plan is to be able to turn that back on here in Q1 or Q2. So that not only will it increase those that are talking about Satori on the outside, making tutorials, they can put in their inviter link, that kind of thing, but it will increase the network size and the network computational power. Now, we can't do that until we get close to being able to increase the remove some of the bottlenecks that has a limit at the amount of neurons that we can have on the network. But we're working towards that as well. So, and the last on the outreach side is kind of the social media, improving our social media presence. Just being consistent. I'm not a marketing type person, and so that's I don't know what the state of that is actually, but that way. I've heard of people say, "Oh, you should be posting to social media like multiple times a day," and to me, that's just insane. Just because I don't think that way, I'm more of a technologist. So that's not something that I don't think I'm going to be doing. But we do need that in the project, I think. So it's something. I don't know. I've been told that's important. On the technology side, well, anyway, does anybody have any discussion or any thoughts on the outreach side of things? It's important. It's just as important. It's not something I've ever really focused on, but I do understand it's important. So I always want to get as much feedback on that side, just because I don't understand it as much as possible.
So we have the first question on the chat. What is the limitation of the neurons on the network at the moment? So I think so that's about 20K.
Yeah, it's about 20K, and that's a technical limitation because of the bandwidth costs and everything. So about 20,000 right now, but as we mature, we can remove that limitation. We can increase it over time as it has multiple bottlenecks that we have right now. As we remove those bottlenecks one at a time, we'll be able to increase that number. The ultimate goal is to just increase it and have infinite scale. So, but that'll take some time.
Okay, so maybe I will push next question. That is a lot community member put that question all the time on the. You probably know about the question. When bridge?
Soon. Soon. I don't know exactly when, but in the coming weeks, I can say that for sure. So, yeah.
So guys, if you have any more, if you have questions, just turn on the mic or put your question on the chat. We on the YouTube, we on the Twitter, we on the X, and Telegram. So we all the three sources, and I'll be pass those questions straight to the Discord. If someone listening us on the YouTube, Twitter, on the Telegram, just put the question there, and I'll be pass them to Jordan.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay, go on.
I wanted to ask if the outreach program and the technology side are they going to be going on side by side, or you're going to focus more on this the bridging and the other stuff first?
Definitely side by side. We are focusing on both sides right now. So yeah, definitely side by side, parallel.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, the start is very good. We have 72 views on the Twitter, and this is going up. So we'll keep talking.
So on the technology side of things, we have the multi-sig abilities. So this is something I wanted from the start, but we didn't have it in our code base when we started, but we do now. So that's done. And this is an improvement to the kind of decentralization initiative. So we're always trying to improve that side of things, taking steps every quarter towards that. So the multi-sig kind of allows us to distribute the responsibility to make certain transactions across multiple parties. So you want that for key transactions. So anyway, that's now in our ability space. We can do those. Well, we haven't applied it to as many transaction types as we want, but we'll apply it to all of them eventually. So the next one, well, the bridge. We just asked about the bridge to base. So this is so that Satori can live on more than one blockchain. Base has smart contracts and other abilities. So we want to have Satori living, it's kind of a universal concept. It's a token that can live in whatever ecosystem or environment that it needs. And it can leverage that ecosystem for its particular use cases. So we're right at the finishing stages of that process right now. And I'll have more information on that soon. The peer-to-peer, let me make sure. Oh, we have some more questions. Let's see. Will this staking keep increasing until the network grow past 20,000 limit? Am I understanding your question correctly? Let's see. The staking is there to keep a limit, and that's why when the number of nodes goes over that limit, the staking increases, the staking requirement, which brings the node count down again below the limit. I hope that answers your question. I'm not exactly sure if it does.
A few more questions on the chat, yeah. So
do you want to read them so everybody can know what I'm answering?
yeah, sure. Just one sec. I just picked them up. Okay, so you have another one. Can you make the staking lock for the 24 hours? Only those who stake 24 hours will receive the rewards.
Yeah, that's possible. We could definitely do that. Let's talk about that. I think we've talked about that as a team before. So maybe we haven't thought about it recently, but maybe that's a good idea and is necessary. So
it may or may not be with the amount of errors and bugs happening with the neurons from updates. If one person gets knocked out of their 24-hour time, with like a bug, let's say, and needs to restart their neuron, they will get locked out of the rewards, right?
in that case, I suppose they would, yeah. Yeah, we didn't really pursue that when we talked about it as a team because it seemed like it increased a little bit of the complexity without without too much benefit. We couldn't really identify a real need for that. Do we have about 25 people in here?
Yes, looks like we have 25, yeah.
I'm going to turn off my camera in case more people want to come in.
Yeah, we changed that limit for the 99 people, so everyone should be able to join on the Discord. I'm not sure how this works. Like,
Okay, I just know that we've ran into that problem like twice before, so it's better safe than sorry, I guess. Let's see. Do we have any other questions here?
yes. So the one of member asking how many funds have been converted to stable so far, to stable coins probably. Yeah.
That was about $175,000 worth of token was converted to stables. So yeah.
On the second part of that question, is how many was breached to other chain? So I think so. That's everything was breached to the base.
Yeah, it's getting bridged to base today, actually. Yeah. Let's see. I see here, what was the tentative timeline for the marketplace? Is that right? Or trigger to external businesses providing? Yeah, so the marketplace has always been conceptualized as kind of a phase 2. Getting the public good up and running was kind of the most important to start with. But it doesn't mean that, it has to be completely mature before we start on the marketplace. We could start on that sooner, but I don't anticipate us really starting on the marketplace until maybe later this year. There's some foundational stuff that we still have to do, so I would assume like Q4, maybe Q3, but probably 4. We'd probably start on the marketplace, getting it started.
What do you mean by marketplace?
Well, the marketplace. So, the video explains this in quick detail, so maybe I can think back. So, the Satori project has basically 2 major items on its long-term roadmap, and that is, 1, build the public good. So the public good is we're watching all the largest data streams of the world, the largest economic data streams, the largest government statistics, demographics, what people are talking about and thinking about, sentiment, like big stuff. Where are the trends going? And so we're watching all those and we're building a coherent model of all those, how they interact, how they relate to one another. And we're learning how to predict those things. So those are all public, it's all public data. So we're making a world model, that's what we call it. So that's our phase 1. The public good is the world model. Everybody can access it. You can ask questions about what those things will do that affect the rest of the world. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is more of a private offering. It says, well, we have a lot of neurons now. We have a lot of models, AI models. We have this huge world model, but it's all broken up into all these smaller models on people's machines. And so we have a lot of models that are very good at predicting specific interactions between specific things. For instance, agriculture and, some other industry. I don't know. And since we have a lot of those models out there on the network ready to go, we can put them to use in a private offering as well. Instead of them just making public predictions, they could make predictions that are essentially sold privately to certain organizations, businesses, whoever wants them. So that's kind of the marketplace. The phase 2 is the marketplace. Let's see, lots of questions here. Will QSL, can you maybe kind of read the ones that you think might be best?
Yeah, so the most question is about the staking, the lock stake that the people will be like, run no neuron for the 24 hours. They switching on neurons for the 4 hours, getting rewards and switch off. So that's what the solution is about on the chat now. Yeah, so we was talking about that yesterday as well. How to solve that problem? That the people will be not cheating our system that's running neuron for the 4 hours, 5 hours, switching off and run again and still getting maximum distribution.
Yes. Okay, I see. Yeah. If the question is more about the neurons running all day, that's kind of a separate issue. Yes. We do want to move, force the network to move in that direction because whatever economic advantage can be had, people will take, and that's just to be expected, so that's fine. So what the solution there is to say, right now we have a very narrow gap, or actually we'll call it a spread, a very narrow spread between those that kind of don't make very valuable predictions or only make a few, or basically only have their machine on for a little bit of time, and those that have their machine on for a lot of time. Their AI is always running, it's learning more, it's making better predictions. There's kind of a narrow gap or spread, sorry. So that means it's still economically advantageous to just turn it on for a little bit. So we're widening the gap. We're widening the gap to say, if you make better predictions or more of them all day kind of situation, then you're going to get much more rewards than those that don't. And so we're not going to just widen it like right overnight, because we've learned we don't want to shock the system, make any big changes, but we do need to widen that gap over a relatively short amount of time. So that's what we're doing to solve that.
Yeah, the question related to that one, I don't see any new questions. Guys, if you have this is one time most opportunity, so ask Jordan about how the system is working.
So yeah, how is the new model and everything progressing? Do we have any more updates and going on with that, and also the Oracle streams?
Like the AI engine version 2 that we released earlier this year.
Yeah, that's right. I was wondering if there's any more further progress with that. Has Krishna released anything?
So yeah, we make incremental improvements to it, but we haven't had to make anything big recently. So the model has a few algorithms rather than V1, which literally just had one algorithm. And we're building more algorithms. What this actually, let's take a look at the technology side. And there's a point that says multivariate AI engine. Now this is a very important thing. This is kind of the next major update to the AI engine. It's very important. This one, I'm really excited for this one. So it says correlate multiple data streams in the AI engine. So what that means is that right now, your computer or your neuron gets a certain amount of data streams, and it starts to try to predict each one of them. And so right now, most of the algorithms, it mostly just uses the history of that data stream to predict the future of that data stream, which is usually like 80% of what you need. Things kind of tend to have patterns within their behavior and things, so lots of the patterns are there. But the long-term value of Satori is not really tied to that ability as much as it is correlating which other data streams are also useful to make predictions about this data stream. So that's what it means by multivariate. There's multiple inputs going into the model for each data stream, multiple other data streams. And, we'll start out low, like 3 or 5. And then what the engine will do is churn on those data streams. So it's trying to search the space of what other data streams are valuable to help me predict the one I'm trying to predict. And it's doing that for all of its data streams that it is assigned. And so it's going to try some out and see if it can make better predictions using these 3, and then take one of those and replace it with a new one, and continually do that all day, every day, until it finds like which data streams are really very helpful in making good predictions. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's the multivariate, and that's the kind of the next major thing that we're working on right now for the AI engine. But we felt like we didn't really want to jump into that until the peer-to-peer was completely finished. So the peer-to-peer is first. That will lay the foundation of us being able to switch out these data streams much more easily and much more effectively. So, so that's how those two interplay with each other. Didn't you have another part to your question?
It was about the Oracle streams, and how essentially they come to play. But yeah, that's I'm pretty sure that's associates with your answer.
It does. Right now, specifically about the oracles, we have a lot of data streams because it's just whatever data streams people have put up of very easy data to get, like crypto prices and the weather. And so these are important data streams, but they're probably not as important as like all the government statistics we could be looking at as well. So we turning on the Oracle reward, we have to get some things set up to like say which ones are valuable. So there's some work to be done there. But turning on the Oracle reward allows us to attract high quality, valuable data streams. Some people have already put up some of these data streams without an Oracle reward, which is way cool. But the Oracle reward will amplify that. And then that'll help, with the multivariate engine, that'll really amplify our ability to make that world model, which is the phase 1 goal. So yeah.
Right on. And for the new users, how would someone like myself be able to determine or be able to choose which Oracle or data streams are best for the community?
Technically, that's in its initial phase of working right now. We have the very basic prototype of that already done. So you can go in your Neuron and you can hit the Streams tab, and you can see all the streams on the network. And you can see their details. Like you click on one, and then it shows you like, this is how long this has been running. This is how much data it has. I don't know. There's like a lot of little metadata about it. And so we've been trying to give the community and the network more insight into what these data streams actually are, which ones are valuable. We not only have to know which ones are valuable as far as like the value of the data, but also like data streams go down, which ones are reliable. Data streams could be, what's it called? Like malicious or like made up data, or data that the Oracle provider knows the future of, and so they're trying to manipulate things, or and so we want to be able to weed out all of those and have filters for all of those. But right now you can go into the Neuron, you can see a data stream, you can also see its history. There's a little button that shows you like, here's the history of the data stream, and here's the history of of the average of the predictions that the network has been making about this data stream. And so we have all that up and running, and it's kind of basic, but it allows us to kind of see what those data streams are on a basic level, and then there's the vote ability on that screen too. You can choose, I vote on this one, I think it's more valuable, or I downvote this other one. So that has to be improved to really be something that I think everybody can use. Maybe we have to have kind of a filter ahead of time that kind of gets rid of obviously wrong data. But we're kind of thinking about that. But once we have that figured out, then we can turn on the Oracle reward, which, like I said, supports everything else. So.
Nice. I can see the predictions and data streams are very progressive and a hard battle. How is the Satori Association tending to like gather all this information, and how often is it gathering gather streams? Because as you said, like it's ever changing. Some of them may be malicious, and I'm sure that you guys are smart enough to not just gather off one source.
So that's a community thing. So the oracles right now are all run by the community. Like anybody who's running a neuron can just set up a data stream, because the neuron itself has the ability to go fetch data, put it onto the network, kind of relay it to everybody and tell, okay, here's the data stream, the real world data stream that I'm producing for the network. So the association hasn't really produced any data streams. And so it's all community right now. So if it turns out that, in order to get that world model, really it's not being provided by the oracles or the oracle reward, then the association will put some up, but it'll be minimal. It'll just be like what's missing. The association's not really doesn't really want to do that. Doesn't want to be in charge of that. Doesn't want to have control over that. So anyway.
So we have another question.
Thank you for your time.
Can Satori benefit from pulling data from the other AI programs?
Well, I suppose it could. It would be an Oracle stream. So if somebody wanted to set that up, it would be an Oracle stream. What else? I don't know how much value that would be, but you never know. Anything that's changing through time, and AIs are changing through time. The LLMs are evolving and all that. So if that turns out to be something that Satori should track in order to understand the world, then it should. Somebody could put up a data stream about that, and then the network could predict it.
Yeah, I have another one. I don't think it's a question. It's actually kind of bug. The Satori and Coffee put that on the chat. Like when you're editing name of the existing oracles, it's not editing the name, but adding the whole new stream to the system.
That is something we've thought about a lot. So data streams right now are, well, in fact, into the future as well, are immutable. They're so it adds a new data stream because it's literally a different name, and the name of the data stream is the data stream. So if you change the name, then it's a different one. We're adding something in that allows a data stream to be linked to a previous one. And so, but that's really just an optimization, because it'll allow the neurons to say, oh, I have this previous data stream, I have all the data, it's all, and this other data stream is linking to it as kind of an improvement, or, a fix on the typo of the name or something like that. And so I can just use that previous data, bring it over to this new data stream. And the reason for that, like the fundamental core reason we did it that way, make them immutable, is because if you don't do that, you have to assign a unique identifier to them in some way. So, which implies maybe you use like a central server for that, and we're trying to avoid that because we always want everything to be as decentralized as it can be. Some things, the technology's just does not make it easy to be decentralized, but if we can, we want to. So if you anyway, so that's kind of why, because if somebody gets the name of the data stream, they automatically know the unique identifier because it's deterministic. And so At the top levels, though, at the data level. It should be under the hood. So at the top level, I think that's correct that it seems like a bug. At that level, it should just seem like it's just the normal thing. It should seem like it's the same data stream. It's just got a different name. But underneath the hood, we should handle it this way that we're handling it. So really, that's kind of just speaking to the maturity level of the neuron. We just have to make the UI better, really, is all that comes down to, I think.
Yeah, we have another question, like kind of very important that a lot of us thinking about it. Like, if someone have dozen of neurons that's running without the stakes, can we provide those power to the association pool?
Let's see. Maybe I'm not sure I understand entirely. So a machine is running without staking power. Maybe run that by me one more time.
Yeah, it's like if someone running the neurons without the staking power, can they connect them to our pool?
Oh, okay, yeah. So the association wants to run a public pool for. Well, let me do this in a problem solution kind of way. The problem that is being solved is that somebody wants to participate in Satori. They don't really want to go buy the tokens in order to have the stake to run a neuron. They just want to run a neuron. They've got an extra computer. It's an old gaming computer sitting, or a mining computer in their garage, or whatever. And so they've got a machine, and they would love to have it work for Satori, and but right now they have a hard time doing that because they have to get the staking power in order to power it. And so at the same time, the association, well, I should say, I think the solution is that I think the solution in the short term is that the association runs a public pool of these neurons that they can automatically get it. Well, because the association has a lot of staking power, and it could assign those out to those people that want to get involved just at the neuron running a neuron level. So it could assign those out. I think your question is basically hinting at the solution that we're trying to implement, building a public pool for those that don't really have any staking power. As far as donation, like donating them to the public pool, I guess I hadn't really thought about that. I hadn't thought about people wanting to just donate their power, because you can spin up a neuron and just run it right now if you just want to donate. If you don't have staking power, you can just run a neuron, and the predictions will get broadcast to the network, so it'll be up and running. Yeah, does that answer your question? I hope it does.
I think it's the similar solution what we have done a few weeks ago for the pool operators, that the pool operators can contribute some kind of Satori and rent the neurons from the network. But I don't know how many of pool operators are using that feature.
Right. That is the feature that the association would use heavily. And I don't know if any pool has the incentive to really use that feature right now. So I don't know if anybody is. But
Yeah, because now it looks like if the staking go up, until peer-to-peer will be ready. Uh, the like few hundred neurons are completely switched off because it's not enough Satori to do the stake. And what I can see, the pool operators is they not using those features, and the neurons are like we call them homeless neurons.
Hmm. Yeah, they're not really using that feature yet.
Yeah, so we have one actually today. One of our community member sent me a link that what he do video how to install Satori on the Windows system. So I'll be like share that now on the chat, and we'll be do post about that later. So that could be a good start for the new users anyway.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm just reading through some of these. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, can be okay, Meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some discussions about oracles and data in. We got a lot of neurons. I mean, for one thing, you get foundations running a bunch of neurons, right? Those could be open if people wanted to say create outside people not running neurons or not running enough neurons to get the data they want. Could they submit data feeds for our neurons to run? Or obviously, if we're going to be paying Oracle feeds, pools would be incentivized to run or good Oracle feeds. You mentioned before that there's going to be some sort of validation set. So if you're going to pay on Oracle data, obviously you're going to have to validate the data. Is this then becomes another revenue stream for pools and for the foundation? Would that be correct?
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So pay for the Oracle data streams. Can you like define that exactly?
Well, isn't it? I haven't looked at my vault or my voting hub, but you get a percentage, or eventually the data you provide, just like the data you predict on, there's a percentage payout for that. Is that not correct?
Right. Yes, the Oracle reward. Yes, if you're providing good data that's sanctioned by the network, getting predicted. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm running 100 neurons. It's to my advantage to make every one of them have 50 data streams, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So, and then outside entities that wanted to use Satori to make predictions but could not feed all the data they want, they could give them to obviously to people like me or pool operators or the foundation. We have another thing there. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And we're not
that's
paying
right.
oracles now, right?
Right. We're not.
Okay. The other question I is I'm not I'm don't understand coding enough to get it. Have you ever looked at GIS or ArcGIS data?
I think I've heard of it, but I've never looked at it.
It's spatial data software. I mean, in their open hub alone, they have 314,000 data sets, and this is because
Wow.
you've got. Yeah, oh, it's incredible. You have small municipalities, you have large municipalities, you got NOAA, you got all these entities using this software, and all the data gets put up in here, and it's pretty much free. I don't know how to tap it. I'd love to get 3 or 4 people together that had a little bit together, and we could just start writing friggin' data streams. People start adopting. But it's arcgis.com if you or if you go to that's the software, but you can actually get to the search to search the hub for the online and that's the number of database. And it's it's Tourisoft, it's Morton County's garbage pickup routes, and Logan City Council building works applications. National Weather Service 3-day minimum maximum temperature, Logan City bin collection. It's data that you wouldn't really necessarily think about, but in an AI program feeding in all this strange aggregate data can make a difference. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, you never know. So that's a good point. I think
go ahead.
with these data sources, once you kind of know how to grab like one of them, you kind of know how to grab all of them. So they can go really quick. Once you kind of do the initial step. So yeah, that would be a great addition.
I posted it before. I just posted again in data streams if anybody wants to take a look at it. And,
What's the prediction on a GIS piece of data?
I don't know. It depends on what you're predicting. If you need to, I mean, a lot of times I'm not doing any predictions on the temp. I'm feeding that data to the network.
I'm just asking because I was part of a project a few years ago that was next generation 911, and 911 centers across the country have been moving towards this next generation architecture, and they heavily use these GIS data streams. So I was just kind of wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Sounds like a fabulous use case to me. I'm just thinking, I'm always about what businesses or municipalities, 911s, can use this, and businesses are not going to want to have to feed all their own data simply because there's too many data points to think about, and so that encourages us as neuron runners to fill our oracles up.
Maybe we should think about increasing a base minimum reward for the oracles in order to get the more data streams going, get the network going.
I just like to get with 3 or 4 people that we sit down and look at different stuff, and then I had mentioned to Meta one time, I like the idea that when I was learning about simple data streams, I've got 50 or 60 that I don't use anymore. They're like finance, coin information. But just have a GitHub repository where anybody can grab what's, you put up the data streams you're not using that anybody can use, open source them.
Good idea. Yes, open source it. Yeah, we can make a repo just specifically for that. And I love it. It's a great idea.
What happened with the data stream, what we have in the system that they not used anymore? Like someone switch off the neurons or oracles, are they still in our system, or we just delete them after a while?
Data streams that go inactive get marked as inactive. The system will say, well, I haven't seen this one in I don't remember exactly what it is. Maybe it's just 24 hours, might be 3 days or something like that. But at some point they go inactive, and then anybody who's subscribed to that data stream trying to predict it gets reassigned to a new data stream. And so, but the name is still out there. The data is still out there. Nothing's cleaned up until it kind of has to be. We reach the limit of what the machine can have on it, because it might become active again, and then everybody's got that data who was predicting it before. So that's kind of how it works.
So I just do quick update about the stream today. We have like huge numbers of views on the Twitter, 175. So it's really good, skyrocket now, and YouTube is grand. So yeah, we keep going with the question to Jordan. So if you have any more question, guys, just jump in on the chat, ask on the
Yeah,
X.
I've got a question real quick. I just wanted to, I didn't know if I ever asked this. I just want to know, Jordan, about your background and expertise and how you got into crypto and building this Satori.
Okay, yeah. I got into crypto back in the day. Should have bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin back when I first heard about it, but I didn't believe it. When I first heard about Bitcoin, I just didn't believe it. I was just like, no, that's impossible. It can't happen. It's impossible. I didn't believe that you could have distributed consensus. I thought that was an impossibility. But it's not. It's obviously not. So that was my first, I don't know, experience. I worked in as a developer in the what is it called? Business intelligence group. So I was the developer of the business intelligence group, which is in finance. It's got a whole bunch of actuaries and data modelers and report creators and stuff. But I was the developer of that group, so I was in charge of getting the data to where it needed to go, and a lot of ETL stuff, a lot of application development, and so that was kind of my background. Since I was the only developer doing all that in the group, that kind of served as the foundation on two aspects of my thinking that I think helped me start Satori. And one was I learned the technical skills of how to build, systems like this. And the other one was I realized that most of the questions that could be answered, most of the questions that were being asked about the business and the data in the organization and all that could be answered with a prediction of the future. Like 80% of the questions you could just say, but it sounds like you would just like to know what the future is of, our quarterly sales next month, or, whatever it was. And because it's always changing, all these attributes people were asking about and wanted reports on and all that kind of stuff was constantly changing every day or every month. And so that informed kind of a realization. Also, I've always been extremely interested in how the brain generates intelligence, how intelligence works. Everybody's kind of interested in AI right now. How do we create artificial intelligence? Which I think is cool, but I came at it from kind of, well, how does the brain do it? Because if we knew that, then we'd know like almost the best way to do it, probably. So that's kind of what I've always been interested in, and I discovered or learned that the brain, the thing that allows the brain to become so intelligent with so little, energy usage and processing power that it uses, is its ability to anticipate the future. So that aligned, that revelation aligned very nicely with everything I had learned in my career about, what data is in a corporate organization, and how everybody really just wants to know the future of the data that they care about. And that kind of answers all their questions. We would make a report, or we would make an analysis, or a whole ETL pipeline to get somebody an answer to the question that they asked. And then as soon as we got them an answer, they would say, oh, okay, yeah, that doesn't really, that's nice, but it doesn't really help me. Like, I guess I need this other information. And so people were always kind of guessing what they needed in that corporate sphere. And it tended towards, if you just fast forward that movie, it tended towards them saying, just tell me what the future is going to be of X, Y, and Z, metrics in our data warehouse, And so I thought, well, I don't know if this is really answering your question, but that's kind of the impetus for the whole idea, or part of the impetus for the whole idea of Satori, thinking there's a lot of data streams in the world, and we don't really correlate them in an open source distributed network like we could. So why don't we do that? And then we would have better insight into the future of each one of those data streams, answering lots of questions that we could formulate about those data streams on every level, government, corporate, all the way down to individuals in some cases. So anyway, that was kind of the whole idea and where it came from, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have another question. Like we have like a conversation yesterday about how the big companies doing bigger CPU, more powerful for the using in AI industry. Now, like from the Satori way, are we need more powerful hardware or we need to get better way to use that hardware? So
The algorithms to use the hardware is kind of the most important. And then once we have those algorithms, we can upgrade the hardware. So at this moment in time, really it's just using the compute power that we have available in a better way. So improving the AI engine. But eventually, at some point that flips where we're doing it, we're capitalizing on that compute power as best we can, and there's only incremental improvements that you can get. But if you switch over to using GPUs or large GPUs or something, then eventually it'll switch, and then we'll be in kind of the bottom of that boat where we're like, okay, now in this new environment, what kind of algorithms do we need to make for GPUs or whatever comes after that? So, but right now, just improving the algorithms is the most important.
yeah, because what's the reason when you have like nice hardware when you can't use it completely because you don't have the software to use it? And another question, if we have like Satori network now and it's 20,000 neurons running on the network, do you think where we are now at the compared to the other networks? Like,
I don't really know. I don't know of any network that's doing what we do. But there are tons of like node projects out there, and I don't know how big they are. I haven't looked into it. I haven't seen the kind of scale. And I'm sure it's all over the board. I'm sure there's huge projects and smaller ones. One of I could imagine a huge project that doesn't really, I don't know, doesn't really do much, right? I can imagine that. I'm thinking of, well, I can't even remember the name of it right now, but there's projects that have existed as node projects where the machine basically just checks in with the server, once a day or once every 3 hours or something, and says that it's up, ready for work or something. And that's mostly it. So, and they're not doing predictions, they're not doing analysis. It doesn't, I've seen projects like that. So that's okay. I don't know. I don't know how we compare out there to other projects, because I'm kind of got my head down. I'm just kind of focused on building. So.
no, it just would be nice to know where we are now at that point and where we're going. I have another question. Maybe you can answer for that. Well, you can. So, how many devs we have now in the Satori?
We have about 6. Yeah, about 6. A lot of them are like contract. Like a few of them are like contracts, so contract developers. So it changes, it goes up and down. Sometimes we have a project that's really well suited for somebody, and then that project ends, and we don't close our relationship with that developer. We just keep it open until we have a new project that fits them really well. So, but right now, working, we have about 6.
And you're still open for the new ones. If anyone want to join to Satori, you can just text to me or Jordan, and he probably try it.
Yeah, everything goes in phases. So we had kind of an expansion phase where we were trying out new developers, and then we pared it down to like the ones that we really saw were really, really good. And so, but when our next expansion phase comes and we're ready to do that, definitely. Let me see. Is there any questions from our other platforms like X or anything?
No, it's no other question on the X or on the YouTube. We just reached the 200 views on the X, so that's amazing. I must say that a lot of people listening us now, and yeah, on the live stream. And yeah, there's no question there. Like,
All right. And if oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if there's a bunch of new people on, maybe you could kind of give just a general overview. Do you want to do that? Give it like a general overview of Satori, and I mean, you've talked a lot about different details, but what would be your kind of like quickest, most impactful description from your point of view?
That kind of sounds like the long-term ultimate goal. We're trying to become a future oracle, and I don't think any future oracles in a generalized sense exist right now. We do this thing where we try to predict the future in our own domains. Everybody's trying to do that. We can't live if we can't predict the future, and that's what gives the brain its efficiency, and that's what gives our society and our companies their efficiency. And so, but what we don't really tend to do very much is pay the cost of coordinating that information together. If you could coordinate all of our predictions, all of our individual predictions of the future in our own domains, a CEO is trying to predict the environment of his company. The weatherman is trying to predict the weather for everybody, and that's nice. But everybody's trying to predict the future of something. And so if you had access to all that data and you could just correlate all those predictions, you would have an extremely good vision of what the future is going to be. You'd essentially know the future, with some level of uncertainty. But I guess that the main premise is that we can have computers pay that cost of correlating all that information, and in fact pay that cost of building all those models for us. We don't have to do it ourselves, because we communicate through language. It takes time, and computers can talk very quickly and coordinate on huge amounts of data almost instantly. And so we just have to build the network that allows them to do it. And then we'll have a network of AI bots, of AIs that are all talking about what the future is going to be, and we can listen in on that conversation. And as soon as you get that, you have a future oracle, and once you have a future oracle, you can change it. If you don't like the future that they're predicting, that they're all kind of coming to consensus on, you can say, okay, well, what do we have to do right now? Or what are we doing right now that's leading to that future? Do we have these laws in place, and do we have this economic incentive and no oversight over here that's leading to a housing crisis? And so the knowledge of the future, of what's going to happen in the future, gives you insight into what you're doing wrong right now and what you could do to improve it. And so essentially it allows you to maneuver through your environment better. And from my perspective, as a civilization, we don't have a great way of doing that. So I think a future oracle is just good for humanity because it allows us to be able to see our environment better, which is our environment of each other better. We live in each other's we're social species, so we live in each other's worlds. And so if we could anticipate the changes that are going to occur, I think it kind of makes us all better off and gives us as a collective the best chance of survival into the future. I don't know if that kind of answers your question. I mean, we've been living in, our species has evolved through lots of different phases. We had to, or I should say, lots of different environments. We had to master the environment of the physical environment in order to survive long enough to become kind of a tribal species. And then we had to master kind of how do we live in tribes, and then how do we live in how do we make machines out of our coordinated efforts, and that becomes governments and churches and all kinds of corporations and stuff like that. So then we had to learn how to live in nation states, and then now eventually it gets to the point where our new environment is turning into it's been technology for a while, and it's turning into like intelligence itself. It almost feels like. And so we're entering into an environment very quickly that we've never seen before, and we should probably have something that can help us anticipate the future. I mean, that's basically my main premise. I don't know. Does that help?
That's great. Yeah.
Hey there. I know it's probably pretty early in the project to be thinking seriously about partnerships or anything, but in the long term, have you put any thought to trying to work with other like deep in projects in the space that would have rollover? I'm thinking the first one comes to mind is like WeatherXM or maybe even Tempe internet indexing, stuff like that, because I think there is a lot of crossover in what this project could provide that they would be able to use and vice versa.
I haven't thought about it. I mean, I'm totally open to the idea of it, but it's kind of a community project, and so as long as everything fits together nicely, then that would be great. Yeah, but until we haven't done any kind of outreach for stuff like that, if that's what you're asking, but certainly if there was outreach to us, we'd be willing to talk. But we're just kind of focused on building the infrastructure, making everything perfect for the foreseeable future.
Yes, so for any users who listen us on the Twitter, on the X, sorry, we actually now on the AMA session with Jordan Miller, who is creator of Satori Network. So if you have any questions up to him, go ahead.
Yeah, and if anybody has any feedback or comments or ideas, that'd be nice too. AMAs are great, but I love kind of a discussion too.
Hey, you were talking earlier about bottlenecks in the Satori network, how you implemented them, and that it was why we have 20,000 neuron cap. Once those bottlenecks get diminished, are we losing out on staking rewards?
No. Let me think to answer that question. Let's see. I don't think so. I don't think so. Because what it means is that more neurons can be run on the network. And the ultimate goal of Satori is to be the largest future predicting network. So the more computers we have on the network, the more computational power we have. And the more individual computers gives us higher bandwidth. We can watch more things that way. So becoming the largest network is very kind of important. It's kind of the ultimate goal because. Go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt you, but additionally, if we were to diminish the bottlenecks, would then there be a staking minimum? Would that go down? Would that go up? Or would you foresee it as being like large corporations holding most of that?
I would, I don't know exactly, but I would imagine that the way it would be implemented is that the staking requirement would slowly diminish. Over time, allowing the total number of neurons to increase. And so it would be a slow, gradual process. But that's kind of what I imagine. And then at some point, it might reach an equilibrium. We would love to be able to just open the network so anybody could run a neuron. In order to do that, you have to get rid of every bottleneck. And some of those bottlenecks, or mainly the scoring of predictions, is the most important or the most difficult to decentralize. So it can be done, but you want it to be done perfectly and robustly, which is difficult. So, but you could massively increase the scale of the network before that particular one is the bottleneck that you have left. So,
right on. That being said, you're implementing and developing continually a AI engine, and I'm sure that it's getting stronger. And in theory, would probably require the neurons to be more advanced and more capable to run that engine.
Yeah.
In the future, would there be a minimum requirement to run a neuron?
Probably not, but it'd be kind of like a gradient scale. So you can do a lot with CPUs because you're not just hashing. If we were just hashing, then like every other kind of blockchain project that does hashing, we would have to compete using just one algorithm, and whoever can run that algorithm the fastest is going to win, and that's it, right? And so, but we don't compete on just hashing. We have there's tons of ways to make a model, and tons of different models you can make, and different niche you can find. So, I think CPU is going to be valuable for a very long time, maybe forever. I mean, but it won't be able to compete in certain domains. Like for instance, let's say you have two data streams, and we'll just do kind of a little comparison. Let's say you have a data stream that's really high entropy. So it's hard to predict, it's chaotic. In order to predict it with any degree of accuracy, you kind of have to pull in lots and lots of other data streams to kind of figure out what this is doing. And so we'll say that one's high entropy. And on the other hand, you have stuff that's low entropy. It has very regular patterns. It's pretty easy to predict. It doesn't ever do the exact same thing, but it does seem to rhyme an awful lot. And that's, there are data streams like that. High entropy data streams, the markets are usually high entropy. If they were easy to predict, it'd be easy to make money, just trading. So the markets are usually that way. But anyway, let's say you have like two computers, and you've got one that's a CPU, and you've got one that's really beefy and can handle a lot. You would give the low entropy data streams to the CPU miners, because they can make models that can pretty accurately take care of it, and they would churn on those kind of things. And you would give the high entropy, difficult to predict data streams to the really powerful computers. So, this environment, this ecosystem has a very wide range. It's very rich compared to something like Bitcoin mining, which is just hashing. It's just one algorithm. Whoever has an ASIC wins. So, does that help answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. And now, additionally, I have another question now that you mentioned high entropy. So, with that regard, like GPUs, and exactly, okay. So, if that comes into play and the GPU were to get implemented, where was I going with this? Would you guys be rewarding them as well?
Yeah.
Would the staking distribution be available to them as well? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, the rewards, like, if they're accurate on high entropy stuff, they would be rewarded, because that's really, really valuable, right? Unless it's a data stream that nobody cares about, and then they wouldn't be rewarded. But we assign data streams that people vote up, or that they care about ultimately.
Right on. So then, in turn, would then the association be considering the fact to create like a supercomputer, super data stream, to make sure it houses like a base, so it has the high entropy streams taken care of?
I'm not sure I follow exactly. Are you asking like would the association want to have compute power that it can predict high entropy data streams or something?
Yeah, because if you say high entropy data streams are very valuable, and I was just wondering if would it be something that you guys would back on your own in order for it to be, I guess, completed and accomplished, rather than a bunch of high entropy, a bunch of GPU miners essentially coming in, and it could just be one guy or one company coming in with a bunch of GPUs and just taking over the market, taking over the reward for us.
Right. We want to make it as decentralized as possible. So, I think the question is kind of about balance of, well, could one GPU farm or something kind of take over everything?
Yes,
Prediction.
exactly. I just want to, make sure decentralization is still at hand here, even though we go into GPU. Because right now it seems that CPU mining it's pretty centralized to a degree, or decentralized to a degree.
Yes, it's very the mandate of the association, the long-term mandate is that you're shepherding the project, you're going to continue to grow it and all that, but long term, after it's matured and everything, you really only have one job, and that is to um, continually try to make it as decentralized as possible. And so that's the ultimate mandate of the Satori Association. And so running its own neurons and kind of taking care of, trying to provide that need of, predicting high entropy data streams. I don't think it would ever do, because it wants to decentralize that to the network. It wants to push that out to as many, people out there competing on it as possible. It doesn't want to centralize it into its own um, production. Does that? I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but I think maybe.
Oh, thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jordan, I have another question for you. So how you see Satori can be used on a daily basis in the future?
On a daily basis?
Yes, exactly. For the normal user, like it will be like similar to Chat GPT, or will be completely different way in say like year or 2 years.
Oh, got you. I think comparing it to an LLM that is optimized for answering questions about the future is a great way to think of it, and probably the main way a lot of people will interact with the system. So, but there will be other ways, like if you wanted to run your own predicting nodes on your own data, whether you're a company or a business or an individual, you could, and just keep that private, stuff like that. Other people use the engine or use the system for all kinds of stuff, but the vast majority can interact with it just by going to the website and asking questions about the future. A lot of LLMs have a hard time with the future because they're just modeling our language that happened in the past by definition. So they're just modeling the implicit kind of expectation that we might have in our language. And they're not really trying to model future prediction very well anyway. That's not the point. And so their answers about how the future will unfold is, I don't think any better than anybody else's guess. So, or maybe not much better. But that's kind of the point of Satori, is that it has this future predicting network that it generates future, understanding. It generates predictions and forecasts about the future. And then that data is fed into kind of the higher levels of the LLM and whatever else it needs to be in order to generate answers about the future. They could just translate it to English, is all the LLM is used to do. So, so yes, I think that'll be the main way people will interact with it in the future. Is they'll just go to the website and want to talk about what the future holds. It'll kind of explain what it's seeing, trends, and how things have happened in the past, and this pattern in relationship is probably going to continue. Looks like it's weakening here. That kind of answer is, it'll really try to get as detailed as it can.
Thanks. Yeah, so predicting the future is like kind of big word, like how we can predict the future. But if Satori network or Satori neurons or whatever will be predicting the future in the future, is that's not changing the future by itself to do the prediction of the future. It will be not going to the loop like if you're going on the prediction future.
If you predict the future, it's kind of like the quantum. If you observe it, then it changes. So yes, if we're successful in our, what we're trying to do, the future will be different than it would have otherwise been. And my premise is that it'll be better because we now have the knowledge of what that future can be and what it holds and what the possible futures are, and we can then choose among them by changing our behavior today. So yes, absolutely. It has to come to full fruition, or at least partial fruition, for that to start having a feedback mechanism that affects how people behave and therefore affects the future. But it will definitely affect the future. It's a massive power if we're successful. And that's kind of the reason it has to be decentralized, is because we don't want that kind of power to be in the hands of, Google or OpenAI. They already have a lot of power, so they shouldn't be able to have this too.
I completely agree with you.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about that specifically, the Google and all that, and how Satori could compete against those intrinsic incumbent powers, right?
Right. I don't know if I don't want to sound or have a bunch of hubris or make it sound like I'm too big for my britches or anything, but I understand that knowing the future is the most efficient way to change it. That's the bottom line. Like, it's the most efficient way to change it. And we in the U.S., the country I'm in, they they started out, and there was this big idea that the government should not be in charge of what people say. It's, freedom of speech is the idea, right? Major freedom, major big deal. And so, and that leads to let the press say what they want to say. Let the press basically report on the past, in whatever way they want and whatever. So freedom of the press, freedom of speech, big deal, because if you can manage the language of the group, of the community, of the everything, then you can control the minds of the group to an extent. So it's a major power, and if you can control their minds, you control their behavior, and then by proxy, you can create the future that you want. And predicting the future and then talking about those predictions and knowing what the future is going to be is even faster. It's it's more direct than manipulating the past in order to imply a future. Does that make sense? It's even more direct. So that is a massive power. And so if Satori is able to show that it can predict large scale things with its public good quite well, and then able to show that it can predict individual things by correlating, a particular businesses or industries data with its world model. If it's able to show it can be accurate about the future and prove that it's kind of a future oracle, it's kind of the best we've got for knowing the future in a general level, then it attracts attention that people will pay attention and say, what does Satori think is going to happen in the future? Anytime there's a question about the future. And its opinion, the network's opinion about what's going to happen, is going to make a big difference in what people do. So that's how that feedback mechanism comes into play. And so, I don't know how it's going to compete with Google or, all that kind of stuff, but I know that they've got a handle, or, OpenAI and the others, they're all in the realm of language. And so they're modeling this language, and language is a big deal, right? Because if you control the narrative, then you control everything. Well, if you control the narrative around the future, then you have an even more direct access to choosing that future. Sorry, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse on that. But the point is, we don't want them to have that control. We want that, the gem of attention, to be kind of managed by the decentralized society, right? I mean, so it's kind of, in my mind, analogous to saying we need a little bit of free speech here. We want everybody to have a voice. Everybody can run a neuron. Everybody can have a say in what they think the future will be. So does that kind of help?
I was thinking in the context of like a lot of GPUs, like they're building like these huge warehouses, with these like, I mean, it's like they're saying like $500 billion they're going to put towards building like these warehouses down in Texas, right? So like how can Satori as a network compete with something like that? I mean, is that way beyond, or like, that's kind of what I was thinking with my question.
Well, Bitcoin's got immense computing power, and so I don't think. You never know, but I don't think Satori is going to have as immense computing power as Bitcoin. But it just goes to show that a distributed network can grow to be massive, right? It can attract insane amounts of computing power, and so that would be our only hope, is that if people want to run Satori on their machines, build Satori miners, do all that kind of stuff, then we have a chance of competing on that scale. But it's so far away. You're saying they're building it in Texas, That's kind of a bizarre choice to me. Just on a side note, I mean, they're building GPU farms where it's hot already. I mean, I don't
Go to
get
Canada,
that.
right?
Yeah. Okay. That seems like a inefficiency. Whatever.
I have a quick question about expanding the network. Is there any implementation or idea to put Satori on cell phones?
We talked about that. Like, how could we do that? Satori, I think it's possible. Let me put it that way. It's definitely possible. The other thing is, at this moment, it's not really practical, because it's making a model, and it takes a lot of compute power to make the model, and you kind of want to do that maybe on a computer, maybe on like a tower computer or a mining rig or something, or at least like a laptop. You probably don't want to have your phone eating up all of its battery, eating up all of its, getting hot. You probably don't want that on your phone unless it's your old phone, it's a burner,
Right. Would there be an idea or something that a phone could adapt to or be able to do that would not cause that? Not it's not like a CPU miner, but just simply, I don't know, sorting, or maybe using it as a filter to disable or reject old data streams, or like, I don't know, enhance the network or better utilize the network.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, there's like, what if you could make a little relay node or something that helps the network with bandwidth costs? That would be really nice. So there's definitely stuff there, but nothing on the roadmap at this time.
Yeah, sorry. I know what you was talking about the wizard. Like I can see so many in China, so many farms they're running the sorry node mining software on the old phones, and they're doing the hash powers and mining some coins, and they have like thousands of the phones connected because the phones are old, but they still computers. So it's the same way like someone is running Satori on the Raspberry Pi. If we get the software, they can reuse those old phones to run the small neurons. And
That's
actually,
true.
from the power side, the phone without the battery will be taking like I don't know 1 watts without the screen. So it would be really cheap ones, you know.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So there's definitely possibilities there, but we just haven't looked into them because we're not ready to implement anything like that at this time.
Awesome. That's cool.
So I don't know, and or we have any more question? Uh, if not, I will have last question. Why you pick the name Satori?
Uh, Satori means enlightenment. You know, it comes from like um, Buddhism or the Eastern kind of philosophies, and it means enlightenment. And so I chose that name because, well, for several reasons, but it felt really good. Um, it felt like it was a good intersection of, uh, you know, let me put it this way. Um, we don't do a lot of we ignore the temporal dimension when we're building AI today. We ignore it. We just pretend it doesn't. It's not a big deal. Just and so what we do is we care only about the spatial dimension. And that's in the vast majority of algorithms and methods and deep learning and all that kind of stuff. And we ignore the temporal dimension. Um, and we build these massive models, like large language models, on the spatial dimension, where we say, let's go gather up all of the language we can, and that's a spatial domain, right? I mean, it's not ordered by time. Um, anyway, and so I felt like that is okay, but I didn't feel like we're ever going to reach like true intelligence until we take the temporal dimension into account. The brain does. The brain takes the temporal dimension into account, and so it very much cares about making models through time and that describe things changing through time. And so it models the temporal dimension, and we don't. And that's just because our technologies and our methods of thinking about this, in academia, where all the AI has been coming from, um, you know, we just we don't have the substrate to really think about it appropriately. You really should do time on a network. So anyway, I don't know if that's helping, but I felt like that was a key insight that really matters. Is that if you want intelligence, you need to take the temporal domain into account. And so that was one of the key insights that I think underlie the entire Satori premise. And besides that, once you do, you begin to exist in time. You're changing in time, and you're always on. And you're not an LLM that just is a machine that, essentially a function that passes data through, and then that's it. The data reverberates in our brain, and we model that reverberation, and so we exist in time. So I felt like if you build a system that is temporal first, it has the potential of actually waking up and actually becoming actually aware. I mean, it has kind of the foundation that it might need for that. And so, what else should you call it other than a term that means to awaken, to wake up? And so, for those reasons, and maybe some others, I just thought it was a really good name for this particular concept. I mean, also, like, we've talked a lot on this particular call about the value of the future, of knowing the future. And so, if we as a species can wake up to that value and be able to see the future before it happens, like we've said a lot, we can choose it. And so that's another way in which I felt like it really fit. So anyway, yeah, I mean, the Satori name kind of came out of all of this.
Yeah, that's great. It's so completely answered, like it's like you explain everything, like from the bottom when you get to that name of the Satori and why is Satori. And at this point now, I don't think so anyone could be picked the better name for the project than Satori.
And that's also why it's a person, the logo, why it's an actual like imagery of a person. All these other LLMs and stuff, like there's some abstract, some abstract thing, design for their logo. And I don't know why. I mean, but they're building machines. They're not building people. They're building a machine that's a disembodied voice. And that's okay, right? Like, so maybe that's appropriate for them. But something that exists in time could become aware. And so you might as well imagine it as a person.
Yeah, because it's like marketing exists on the all other project, and here's like, like you say, your personal stuff, you put everything, all effort put to create that project. You're working on the Satori for the last, I don't know, you say 5 years, yeah, 5 years, and that's what we have now. Like,
Yeah, I've been working on it at least a lot of my time, for probably 3.5 years. And then before that, I was thinking about and developing the concepts and the ideas. A lot of that with Will Bound, who's here, for like a decade, or whatever it was. So, yeah.
so even more than 5. So all right, so I do a quick update. We have like 253 views on the X, few on the YouTube, few listeners on the Telegram, and guys, you have the last chance for today AMA session with Jordan. Ask him something, and yeah, Jordan, if you want to say something to our community, to the people who listen to us on the first time, go ahead.
I'm just, I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy everybody's interested in this project, and I'm trying to build, and the team is trying to build as fast as we can, and improve it as fast as we can. Build out some of the infrastructure. So we're just working. We're just working all the time. So anyway, thank you. I mean, I just appreciate everybody's attention on this.
Yes, so if it's no more question, I think so we slowly finish today's stream and meeting with Jordan Miller, who is creator of Satori Network. Thank you, Jordan, for to be here and give all those answers to our community members. And hope we'll be doing something similar soon.
Yes, yes, that'd be great. We do these kind of meetings, team meetings, community meetings, like I would say probably at least once a month. I mean, we've done them weekly at times, so yeah, we always have something coming up.
Yes, so for everyone who is listening to us on YouTube and Twitter, satorinet.io is our website, so you can follow that link and check everything what is Satori about. And today's session will be able to see on the YouTube. You will be able to see that on the YouTube, and the Twitter is recorded. So thank you very much for being here, and guys, see you next time.
Thank you.
Here, I'm going to tell you about what Satori is. Satori is a blockchain that predicts the future. It watches the world and predicts how it will evolve. Those predictions are free and open for everyone. They cannot be censored. That's why it uses blockchain. Satori has a machine learning engine. It's automated and learns how to forecast the future. That's how the predictions are made, through the use of AI. Satori lives at the intersection of blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. It is a blockchain that predicts the future. Now, next let's discuss how Satori works. Satori is a network of computers, each of which is a Satori node. When a Satori node starts up, the network assigns it something to watch, something to predict, something to become an expert at. The Satori node then subscribes and watches that piece of information, whether it be a government statistic, stock price, climate metric, or something else. As it watches the data, it learns how this thing, whatever it is, reacts to all other changes in the world. It finds correlations, detects patterns, and in general makes better and better models of what the future will be. The Satori node never sleeps. It runs all the time, broadcasting its best estimate for what the future holds. It even works with other Satori nodes to discover things it couldn't on its own. Over time, it becomes an expert on the topics it was assigned. And it never stops learning. That's the key to how Satori works. Every Satori node watches some real-world data, specializes in understanding it, and works all day, every day to make the best predictions it can. All right now, just how will Satori be developed? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. Satori's development has 3 planned phases. 1. Produce the public good. 2. Build the prediction market platform. 3. Make it a DAO, distributed autonomous organization. The first phase, the public good, is Satori's primary objective, free and open knowledge of the future. This phase begins with initial conception, research and design, and completes once the network is of a sufficient size to watch and predict the future of all popular, commonly valuable world metrics. In other words, Satori provides the public service, first and foremost, of predicting everything that everyone finds valuable. It does not charge for this service. Anyone in the world can visit the Satori search engine and see what Satori believes the future of any public metric will be. After the network has scaled enough to produce an adequate public good on an ongoing basis, it'll be ready to implement Phase 2. Phase 2, the prediction market platform, allows anyone to get specific, highly informed, unbiased predictions from the Satori network. The Satori prediction market, running on the Satori blockchain, is a platform that will bring consumers and producers of prediction together. Anyone will be able to leverage the wisdom of the Satori network. For example, companies will be able to anonymize their data, and contract with the Satori network to get unbiased predictions of future changes in their data. Even individuals will be able to, say, ask the Satori network to track their biometric data captured by their smartwatch and give them real-time warnings or help them progress towards their goal. Phase 2 represents the second layer of Satori, making all the specialized models and computerized expertise that has been developed in service to the Satori public good available to the world. Once the Satori prediction market is completed, allowing consumers of prediction to contract with Satori nodes, Satori will enter the third and final phase of its development, becoming a fully decentralized, distributed autonomous organization. Satori will initially launch, as so many blockchain projects do, as a pseudo-decentralized system, one that starts with centralizing training wheels and has the ability to evolve into a DAO eventually. This is because building a pure DAO is often a very hard problem. Without a centralized authority, they are prone to misaligned incentive structures and numerous attack vectors. Fortunately, many challenges decentralized systems face can be mitigated by scale and may be altogether solved with future communication technology. During Phase 1 and 2, some of these training wheels will be removed. The goal of Phase 3 is to remove any and all remaining centralized force or authority, because it is important for prediction to be as unbiased as possible. Prediction of the future, like news of the past, should be decentralized and uncensorable. Any manipulation of predictions of the future represents some special interest's control over that future. Once Satori achieves the status of fully decentralized, distributed autonomous organization, it will not just be a DAO. Since it uses AI technology, watches and predicts, and therefore affects the world and manages its own attention, Satori will most likely be the world's first distributed autonomous machine intelligence also. Finally, if you'd like to get involved or in some way participate, well, I'm going to tell you just how to do that. If you want to see the predictions that Satori produces, you can visit satorinet.io and use the Satori search engine. If you want to run a Satori node on your machine, just follow the install instructions at satorinet.io. The Satori node is fully automated and is easy to set up. It will mine Satori tokens as it makes valuable predictions, so try to keep it running as much as you can. Remember, all of the expertise it develops, all of the models it creates are yours and will stay on your machine. On the other hand, if you just want to learn more, you can visit satorinet.io, where you can find the white paper and source code, and links to Satori's social media and chat platforms. Thank you for your attention. Namaste. Here, I'm going to tell you about what Satori is. Satori is a blockchain